is life. Book is hope. And book is light for the future.
In rural Pakistan, the dhol is used to make public announcements after gathering people by beating it repeatedly. Goga Sai has become a symbol, a living symbol of the city of Lahore.
Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamualaikum. Ji ayanu, pakhair agale, ni hao, tunashumme, washmale. Ohaya gozaima's, guten Morgen, hola, bonjour, privyet, kaifa hal, hale shuma chatore, ahlan wa sahlan, marhaba. Buna, mucho gracias, swami, balli kare hain, hosh galen, and ayo sayo. And thank you very much, everybody, for tuning into PTV World. You are definitely watching World this morning, alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Miss Haja Sati. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your day with us. But first things first, hello Haja, how are you doing today?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much. I'm fine, alhamdulillah. And I think my brother is not feeling well because he has some sort of flu or something. And yesterday he was cautioning me about, how the virus is going around and one needs to be careful. But I do feel, I don't know, it's not a scientific research to back it down, but I feel the more conscious you are about something, it definitely latches onto you, especially when it comes to flu or not. So Shahzad, I was reading a very interesting thing and I really wanted to share it with you.
Sure, go ahead.
So, as chapati or roti is a staple of Pakistani household, right? Or subcontinental household, I would say. But during the 1857 War of Independence,
Yep.
it was actually used to communicate to all of these people who revolted against the British rule at that time. So that was called Chapati movement at that time.
Alright.
So it's
Wow.
not just an eatable, but see how no technology can defeat such a bigger design, the bigger power at that time. And so what happened was that chapati was made, it was distributed, and then people would distribute it furthermore to give out the message of that the last Mughal king Bahadur Shah Zafar, that we need to rise against the British imperialist yoke at that time. And it traveled really faster when it comes to that, faster than the British postal system, which was at that time in place at there. And that really troubled British because they were really scared of the chapatis at that time. So that was an interesting bit of information, and I thought that how an eatable can be converted into a tool to fight, right?
And you know what, not just that, obviously it was very interesting, and thank you very much for sharing that as well. But we Pakistanis, I think we have lived alongside such revolutionary movements too as well.
That's true.
Because if we talk about over here in Pakistan, I think People's Party has had this slogan of Roti Kapda and Mukan too as well, which brought about a revolution too. So yes, I think it's all going to come down to basic humanities which we have, and then people obviously strive and struggle for that too as well, and that becomes a revolution or a movement too. But yes, referring back to where how if somebody starts to think about something and it latches onto them, that's wonderfully well, because I kind of
Are you very
believe in that.
conscious about
No, I believe in that, because I've been saying that whatever you're going to manifest is something which you will eventually attract. But as a matter of fact, what happens is that if your immune system is a little compromised, so no matter what happens, whatever newer viral, God forbid, newer disease is going to come in, you will be the first victim of it too as well. Even though that I took my precautions for all of those people who were having flu, just yesterday I was like, okay, let's stay back, let's not shake hands, and did my own makeup too as well. But I couldn't save it, so whatever Allah wills for you, all you need to do is, Alamia, please give us more health, and yes, we are happy with whatever you decide for us too as well at the same time. But once again, I'm going to say it out loud once again, and that is that, even today when I came to work, I actually did not really shake hands with anybody, and I was like, hey, you know what, I have flu, I'm under the weather, certainly do not have the same energy level too as well, I'm struggling today. But
and
yes,
it's not visible at all. You're not
Shukran,
wonderful.
Alhamdulillah.
So moving on, we will definitely talk about the flus and the health concerns later in our segment. But now moving on to our favorite part of the segment, which
and
is
that too in line of the 75th independence of Pakistan.
That's
Azme Ali Shan Shad Rahe Pakistan.
Alhamdulillah. So moving on to our new segment. So Pakistan is definitely home to extraordinary talents, including our very own Aisha Kamal. Based in Lahore, she is an Islamic calligrapher who is widely recognized for her work. She has been painting beautiful canvases, filling them with the colors, energy and much more for 10 years. According to Kamal, she tries to emphasize the message of Holy Quran through her art, as she believes that the soul is connected to calligraphy, whether one can understand what is written or not. Recently, her work was displayed at a Contemporary Art of Pakistan event at the National Library of Belarus. Around 80 art pieces by Pakistan's prominent artists Sadiqain, Aisha Kamal and Noreen Sajjad are being showcased in the exhibition organized in the framework of 31st International Festival of Arts, which will continue to be open for the general public till 14th of August, rather 2022. During the event, Kamal gave an interview saying, "It's an honor to have been given this opportunity to tell you a bit about my artistic creations," the artist said. This reminds me of a very famous drama. I don't know if you had the opportunity to see that, but of course, you are associated with the entertainment industry, Shahzad. Did you watch the drama called Alif, which was Hamza, Hamza Abbasi was in it, and it was a masterful, wonderful piece of the art, and it was about, how his dada happens to be a calligrapher and how he's connected to, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through his art and calligraphy. And of course, we have a lot of, things through which we can express our love and a very innate ability to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Exactly, and not just that, because so what has happened is that, my eldest sister, she actually got canvases for my daughters and, her daughter too as well. So, so I was like, okay, what probably can a 3-year-old or a 9-year-old can do with these canvases as well. But imagine, so I'm going to promise you guys this as well, and please, dear team, remind me tomorrow. So I'm going to bring in those canvases which they have painted themselves. And when I looked at them, I was like, hey, you know what, how did you guys even manage to do that? So for
Right.
people like Aisha Kamal, I think when they were given such a conducive environment where they
Right.
were enabled to do what they wanted to do or express the way they were, I think that's when real art actually comes out as well. And when I saw at what my daughters did, I was taken aback. I was like, hey, you know what? These
Right.
guys are so capable. So all we need to do
Right.
as parents is make sure that they have everything to experiment, to express.
Right.
And that's how artists, ladies and gentlemen, are born. And
Right.
that's how, they actually kind of fulfill whatever
Right.
they wish to do so as well. So for all of those parents who are out there, if you see that there's talent in your kids too as well, please make sure that you promote them, you give them
Right.
whatever is necessary. And then obviously they will turn out to be Aisha Kamal, who made Pakistan proud.
Right. Of course, you can never underestimate, your children's capability, how they question the things, and how they can make you think.
True.
So moving on to our second news item, which is about the innovation to combat the climate change, and it's a very interesting news. So scientists in Switzerland have proven they can make jet fuel using sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide outside the lab. Oh, wow. Published in a peer-reviewed journal, the researchers believe the method would help the aviation industry become carbon neutral. There's quite a conflict with the big, carbon industry when it comes to that. The team used an existing solar tower in Spain to prove the entire chemical process from sunshine to syngas, a synthetic alternative to fossil dry fuels like kerosene and diesel. The process involves injecting carbon dioxide and water into a solar reactor and blasting it with the concerted solar heat to split up molecules into hydrogen and carbon monoxide, otherwise known as syngas. There's a lot of chemistry going on here. And again, these fuels can easily be processed into kerosene, drop-in fuels ready for use in the existing global transport infrastructure, including aircraft and shipping. And they said that our goal is by 2025 to have first full-scale commercial solar fuel plant in operation with a production capacity of around 10 million liters of methanol. That's quite a development, Shahzad, considering I don't know how much, the big, fuel giants would allow this innovation to go on, because definitely, they're threatening their...
And not just that, I have a very simple question for you. So for you, if you knew that, that you're actually going to take a flight on a plane where, they are going to attempt to, put this solar fuel in it as well, would you rather take the flight, or would you be like, okay, I'm going to pass?
I mean, if it's successful and if the prices are lower, why not, man? We definitely need it, right?
Because you never know, I would certainly want at least 100 flights to go successfully and then kind of take a flight on such a plane which is going to be powered by solar fuel too as well.
Right.
But it is a massive development,
Right.
and in days to come, I think this is the way forward too as well, because flights are getting more expensive every single day. You think about going somewhere, then you are like, yaar, itni mehnat se paise ikathe kiye, sab flight pe kharch kar do. So I think that's not even fair too as well.
Right.
But now moving on towards my favorite part.
Cricket.
Yeah.
And Shahzad says...
Sports.
Yes. And Shahzad says he doesn't need the paper to read it, but certainly, I do not have the same sort of passion
It's all
or
right.
knowledge as Shahzad has.
It's all right,
So-
just because you do, because I do this show on PTV Sports as well,
Right.
which is why I keep myself
Right.
updated as well.
Right.
But ladies and gentlemen, since Pakistan is visiting Netherlands, and the first encounter which took place in Pakistan, in between Pakistan and Netherlands in Rotterdam, Pakistan won that too by 16 runs. Pakistan gave a target of 314. And yes, winning by 16 runs wasn't really a good thing for Pakistan, because Netherlands is ranked at 13th number in the one-day international rankings, where Pakistan is at number 5. They could have done better, but yes, obviously, as I said previously as well, that Naseem Shah and Salman Ali Agha debuted, but today it's going to be the second encounter in between Pakistan and Netherlands, and yes, I believe that Pakistan once again is going to do wonderfully well as well, and if there are other gentlemen who really need to kind of play and get that sort of experience, I think they should be given an opportunity, because Netherlands, yes, while we say that it's a one-day international and it's an ICC event too as well, I think it's about time that you actually test and try and give opportunity to all of those players who've been waiting on the bench to kind of perform for Pakistan. So Team Pakistan, best of luck, and please make sure that you make Pakistan proud, because if we are going to win all of these 3 matches, I think our rankings and ratings in the one-day international scale is going to go up, and that's something which we are looking forward to.
Of course, and we wish Pakistan best of luck. Of course, no pressure at all.
So 2 p.m. is the time.
Right. Shahzad knows that better. So, Shahzad was talking about, how he got the flu and how, we need to be careful because there are a lot of viruses nowadays. But especially when it comes to the young parents or the new parents, they're very worried about, the development and the growth of their kids. And of course, when you are a new parent, so you naturally you do not have that much of experience about how to rear up your child when it comes to that. So definitely you need a lot of help, especially when it comes to, the nutritional growth of your child and other problems that your child faces. So to address all of those problems, we brought in someone, from the PEDS department, who happens to be Dr. Kamar Ali Sahab. You wanted to add something?
But let's just first
So I want to introduce him, So Dr. Kamar Ali, Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Walaikum assalam.
So thank you very much for joining us, and you've got quite an experience on your hands too as well. You've been in UK, you've been in Pakistan, you've been all over the world looking after kids from almost every walk of life. And I think that's great too as well.
Right.
But what we really need to consider over here is that the weather is changing. There's a transition in the weather. We've seen monsoon rains too as well. Some days it's hotter, some days it's colder. And so we really certainly cannot identify whether we need an air conditioner in our room or whether we need to turn it off, whether we turn it on for a smaller period of time and then turn on the fan and utilize the both. So, which I believe is kind of affecting our health on every single day basis too as well. Let's talk about gastroenteritis, let's talk about hepatitis, typhoid, diarrhea. All of these are the diseases which obviously, can be really lethal if they're not looked after in time too as well. So first things first, I want you to kind of explain how the weather is transitioning and how it's going to have an impact on our babies, kids, children who are out there.
Thank you for inviting me, and it's nice and my
It's a
pleasure
pleasure
to be
to
there
have
with
you.
you in the morning show. So you see, coming to this topic of discussion that you have chosen, and for that we need to see monsoon, and we all know that from June till end of September there is a monsoon, and it is the part of this area, the change of weather, and it's a very classical weather for our area. And in this weather we know that it is becoming damp. It is a torrential rains are coming. So if it is coming, and we know in our country what is happening, water is bubbling everywhere.
True.
Once water is bubbling, what it means, sewerage system is mixed with your sometime drinking water. So it means that the thing is it is a conducive environment for the the bacteria or the organisms that can cause diseases in the children. So I would say that because of this damp environment, and then the vulnerability of the children, then the circumstances and the situation in our area, and also one thing that I can explain further in the end.
Sure.
And I would say that from today's discussion, if we have given this message of WASH, WASH, WASH.
Okay.
Have you heard about this
stands
WASH
for?
strategy?
Wash,
strategy.
okay, W is for wash, what is A for, what is S for, what is H
So
for?
WA is standing for clean water access.
All right.
Okay.
So this is actually,
I think yes, I have heard
every
about it,
child has, the right to get, the clean water.
That's
WA. S is the sanitation,
Okay.
and H is for hygiene.
Okay.
So
lovely.
WASH strategy is a known strategy by the UNICEF adopted to
Right.
clean the world by this strategy
Okay.
till 2030.
Okay, wonderful.
And before even coming toward the diseases, because I believe that this is the most important, this will be the most important message that we can deliver, and hopefully we will deliver through our this talk today.
Right.
Is that this WASH is, this is a half religion.
Yeah.
That's true.
And it costs nothing.
That's true.
However, it costs because definitely bring the availability of these
Sabun ka
things.
kharcha aata hai, sir.
Yeah, because again coming in the school we have these diseases that we are going to discuss, where they are coming from, where they have the more tendency or the chances to spread in our communities, the school.
True.
Right.
You know
They
that
just opened up recently, so kids are going back after summer vacations.
yeah,
Right,
and people we know that in the school things spread like the wildfire.
That's
True, that's
true.
Even if it is there is any new lingo, if there is a new dialect, you will
Everything.
see your children, they
And
will
even a
demand
toy,
only
yeah.
your children will demand the new thing that is in the market, that is expensive, that is not available. From where they're coming, they're bringing from school. Same way, unfortunately, happening for the diseases as well.
Okay.
So the germs also, they are fasting very quickly, and they are bringing to in the community from the schools, because all of the children in the environment are there.
Like how germs are attending school too as well.
Exactly, exactly.
Pade likhe germs are.
Yeah. Because because we believe that the friendly attitude, friendly behavior, friendly atmosphere. What is that friendly? That sometimes we share the things. Even the earpods that you are wearing, huh? Even if definitely from the home you will be keeping your brush separate, but the water bottle, you're sitting together.
When we go to
near.
school, everything's shared.
Yeah. So because there will be that will be the criteria of the good friendship.
And we tell our kids,
sharing is caring.
Sharing is
and we tell our kids, bete, please make sure that you share it with your friends too as well. So that's a valid point.
So again, accumulating and bringing back and coming back toward the name of the diseases, I would say that in the morning talk, if we are going to speak about the etiology, like the cause and the pathogenesis and how they are happening, no need, I suppose, for the general public. But we need to know, and we know that there is a gastroenteritis, this is the stomach flu, this is a typhoid, this is a hepatitis A, and there will be the diarrhea, malaria, dengue. So all these diseases are always there. If you speak about the dengue, I was just reviewing the literature. 1994 there was no dengue in Pakistan. 2010 started pick up of the dengue. I remember I was living abroad. I never know about the dengue in Pakistan. Then I came to know, dengue is happening in Pakistan. There's so much fear. So what to do with the dengue? Basically, there is a 4S strategy. Basically, in what we need to do is to just identify, because when there is a monsoon, water is stagnant there. And stagnant water is the breeding place for the mosquitoes. And mosquito is a vector that can take and bring the dengue virus and infect the people.
But sir, they're so advanced now that the dengue mosquitoes are actually now born on obviously still water, but that water needs to be clean. That's what the problem is.
Then it's stagnant water. I mean, when there is a monsoon, there is a water. So stagnant water is a breeding place for the mosquitoes. That basically the mosquito is not cause of the dengue virus. It is basically a vehicle. It's basically taking and bringing the virus, transporter.
Medium.
So, again, coming toward the malaria. So what we need to do is ask the children to have the full sleeve. Stay away from the breeding places, and the community, our government, or the local, the people, they need to make sure that there is no places where the water is stagnant. They need to keep the flow of the water.
It's difficult considering it's a monsoon season and there's a lot of rains.
But I remember since the childhood, since my childhood, we are listening. Flood. What our government, what our policy makers are doing. They need to do that, because we always know that, we every time know that since from the start of the June till the September, what is happening, monsoon is coming, water is coming, some water from our own country, some water is being sent by our neighbor friendly countries also as well, for the friendly purpose. I know.
Sir, okay, I'm going to partially agree to this as well, but partially I want our audiences to understand this phenomena too as well, because we have done quite a lot of shows over here. When we say that, why nothing's been done by the government, when we talk about the flooding too as well. So the most important part is that by PDMA and NDMA, advisories are being released that, that people are actually supposed to leave the places where it can be flood prone. Now, what happens is that, to actually have the underwater recharge, we really need to have these floods too as well. These are important because we only have a 60-day of storage, right? So when we only have a 60-day of storage, we really need to go through the year. So, these floods important for us too as well at the same time, but just floods without any sort of disturbance and destructions is something which we are looking for.
Of course, we need to, manage and make, how we can create an opportunity out of the crisis there. So moving back to, the kids' health.
We will not go to that context, but believe me, I'm always optimistic. And I try myself even to praise somebody first and then to criticize. I'm sorry I have
started. So for malaria, full sleeves?
Malaria full sleeve.
No stagnant
then again
water.
To avoid, the stagnant water, and then definitely when you see some type of the symptoms are coming, early advice.
So what are the symptoms? Let's talk about them.
Symptoms about that is a fever, and then you have headache, pain behind the eyes, body pains, high-grade fever. And now, if you see the data all over the world, 400 million people all over the world, they are being infected by the dengue. Out of them, 100 million people, they will be sick. Out of them, only few percentage become very sick or hemorrhagic disease. And I know once when there is a patients coming to us in the hospital, they already know, and they ask us to please do the dengue virus test, please, because they know that. And what is happening when it become more, problematic is when there is a bleeding started. However, many of the cases, they are being treated with simple symptomatic care, IV fluids, paracetamol, nothing is required.
Okay. So, sir, dengue and malaria, do you think that they have a correlation too as well?
It is different because the malaria is happening from the another, there are 950 species of the mosquitoes.
Okay.
Few of the species, they carry the dengue, and few of them, they are certain types, they're carrying the malaria.
Yeah.
So malaria is a disease from the mosquito. That's why we are just sometime saying that they're same, but they're different.
Right.
We only thought it's only humans who have different faces. I
I think you would be surprised, how nature has so many variations when it comes to the...
950 species, that's quite a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So-
that too, they're so small that you can...
So your nature, if you start reading the nature, you will
Right.
see and such things.
Yes,
You
yes.
will explore the things.
Okay, so coming back to especially the kids who are young and between the age of 3. So most of the time I think Shahzad is a father, and he will know better that they are throwing tantrums and they do not exactly know how to manage their emotions or express themselves when it comes to that. And unfortunately, what happens is that a lot of parents just in order to, so that their child does not shout or create a scene out of it, they sort of reinforce that the negative behavior. If he is shouting and screaming that he wants particular thing, the children will give them. So you are the doctor of the kids. As a peds, how would you advise, how do you think that, parents teach their children how to manage their emotions?
You see, from the emotions, even only yesterday, one child came to my clinic,
Right.
and mother and father, they were so panicked. I told them once I was in Ireland,
Right.
one of the nurse, she told me, because being a father, I'm a father of 3 kids.
Mashallah.
When they were younger, I was also behaving like maybe like Shahzad or anybody.
Right.
So honestly, that she good. People learn, people know, people observe,
Right.
and the only eyes can see if your mind knows.
Right.
Yeah.
So the thing is that if somebody understand, anticipate,
Right.
empathetic to the people, then you can advise better.
That's
So I was even telling the parents,
Right.
try sometime ignore. Not, you no need to just restrict your child.
Right.
They are not robots. They have own personal emotions that they can be diverted.
Or
and
probably
have to go.
respond to their emotions every
Yeah.
time.
So you need to improvise rather than you need to think and then try to make the child act like that. It's not possible all the time. Children, they are not, listening you.
Right.
You have to make the children their activity and then improvise their activity to your goal. I would say that this is the way you can deal the emotion of the children rather than forcing and making your own mind and then bringing the children to that line. It's not possible.
Because
It's not going to
eventually
happen.
what they do is what they see you doing.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
so that's exactly what they're actually going to do too
Yeah.
as well, and then question you for that too as well. But now, sir, coming back to typhoid, because you spoke about how bubbling water and the
Yeah.
sewage water is
So-
mixed too as well.
Yeah, it is very important. 20 years back, I remember when I was working as a house officer in my hospital, Nishra Hospital, we used to see the patient in the ward with a gastroenteritis. Rotavirus vaccine is in the EPI program in the Pakistan,
Yep.
optimistic approach that I'm telling you.
We've got
Now,
them.
coming back to the Pakistan, we are not seeing so frequent patient. Meningitis patients were very common in that time. Now vaccination is there in our EPI expanded program of immunization. And children, we are not seeing such disease in them. However, typhoid, hepatitis A, they were not in our vaccination schedule. Recently, because of the surging typhoid cases started from the Sindh government with the, the affiliation of Gavi, the vaccination program, it is now entered in our national program. If you know that,
Yes.
9 months we are giving conjugate vaccine for the typhoid conjugate vaccine.
Yes.
So that will help in the future coming days to avoid the typhoid happening in our community. However, hepatitis A is still not in our vaccination program, and we are. I'm also doing pediatric hepatology, liver disease patient seeing in Shifa Hospital. So we usually come across to see the patient with hepatitis A. Usually, many patients they will not come to the hospital in the rural areas. They will not come to the
That's true,
hospital. They are
that's true.
they're treating themselves. They're curing by themselves. It's a viral infection, but sometimes it is a lethal disease, liver failure, need liver transplant. We recently had 2-3 liver transplant after the hepatitis A. So I would say that hepatitis A, because the vaccination is the investment of the parents on their children for their good health. Because healthy children is they are good for the future. Health is important for the children, then they will bring out everything. So I would recommend that hepatitis A vaccine, all of the parents should go and give to the children. However, this is the one type of the the prevention. Other infection, the prevention, as I mentioned you in the beginning, is a wash.
Right.
Clean water,
Right.
sanitation, hygiene.
Right.
If you see the data in the world, we are living in an area where is half of the world is living.
Right.
India, China, Pakistan, subcontinent, 4 billion people. And out of that, if you see that the data, I will tell you 2 billion people in the world, they have no access to the clean water.
True.
That's true.
4 billion people in the world, they are not using clear, the sanitation properly.
Yeah.
Right.
1/3 of the population, they are not properly using the soap.
Exactly.
While doing
Or how
the
to wash
washing.
hands even.
And that exactly, I remember the number is 947 million people, they have no access to the proper toileting. They are going outside to
So
do the
almost
toilet.
1 billion, yeah.
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 So you need the fecal matter. F, it can be spread, from the fluid,
Right.
like in the water,
Right.
in the fields,
Okay.
outside,
Okay.
then the flies,
Yeah.
Right.
fingers, and then it will enter into the food, F again, and then it will go to the another host.
Yeah.
So you have the fecal matter that sometimes you see that the new mothers, newborn babies, only in the breastfeeding, dealing with their pampers, think that stool is okay because the baby is always on the milk and is a pure. No, that is also not pure.
Right.
So you need to clean your hand properly with the soap. Hand wash is very important. Then you're dealing with the, the house stuff.
Right.
So I would say that this wash is the primary prevention that can avoid all these things being happening.
Exactly.
Right.
And so very quickly towards the end of this segment,
Right.
thank you very much, because you really
Right.
make us understand it very well too as well, where how important it is for us to wash. When we speak about wash, it is obviously clean water and then hygiene and then sanitize too as well. But what I have seen, as a father, after post-COVID, we have seen that, a lot of children have developed these different type of syndromes, which still are new to the medical studies too as well, and the pediatricians were unable to figure out what's wrong with the baby. Same happened with me too as well. And they were like that, it's a post-COVID situation, we are still working on it, we're still researching. So, she had difficulty breathing and, her oxygen saturation levels were going down. So the symptoms were similar to COVID, but the COVID test out again and again came out negative too as well. So for all of those parents who might be in trouble as of now, whether what's wrong with their kid, what do you think is the best possibility for them? How do you think that they can verify whether, God forbid, if he or she has developed any other disease or something? So what is the procedure? What is the SOP for that?
Thank you for this question, and I think it's the most relevant question of the present time. And I have recently seen one patient, even father has to fly from Washington to see his daughter. And I can understand the worry when the children are sick. Parents, wherever they are, they will come and see. In that child, I will give you the particular example that you will understand. That child was having typhoid.
Okay.
Now, as I mentioned you before, typhoid is emerging in Pakistan as a multi-drug resistant typhoid.
Right.
What that means that the typhoid will not be treated or cured by the traditional antibiotics that we normally use to treat the infection.
Right.
Then we have to use the upper class of the antibiotics. That is called, and then we have the less, the limitations.
Right.
So that is the MDR, multi-drug resistance typhoid. That girl was having typhoid and she was being treated by the 2-3 weeks, and she's not getting better, and they brought in and they called me. I was on call. One of my registrars, she called me. This is the patient, was on 3 weeks, ceftriaxone, antibiotic, not improving. I said, do the, the COVID panel. Because nowadays, we are seeing the children coming post-COVID. They were not having any problem when they were having the COVID disease itself in the beginning. But after some time, they are developing a type of the disease that you are saying and mentioning. It is known all over the world now, in the UK and even Pakistan. In our own center in Shifa, we have 200 cases already recorded. What is happening, because of the post-COVID, they are developing multi-system inflammatory response.
Yes.
So MISC-like, the disease. So if you are not treating to that, the association of the disease, you will not be treating your typhoid, or even we have seen many patients with typhoid, hepatitis A. So hepatitis with MISC, typhoid with the MISC. Even I have seen multiple patients with, this pancreas disease, or even with the blood diseases, anemia. So there are multiple associations. So you need to understand, and you need to keep that thing in your mind, being a physician, to treat these children. Unless not do that, treat the children like that, you will not be able to treat them.
Exactly.
So that's what happened, and she was fine and she was cured. And many of the children, I can say from my personal practice and my colleagues, they are expert also in the infectious diseases, and they are doing, and we are treating. And fortunately, they are doing very better, very well.
Wonderful.
And there is a very good outcome.
Exactly. And while you were talking about it, I was exactly trying to think the name of the syndrome too as well, because multi-inflammatory syndrome, I think that's what we're calling it too as well.
Right.
But it was in a very later stage that we were able to figure out. My daughter had to be hospitalized for at least a week's time as well. But
Right.
I'm glad to the doctors at Shifa because what they do is that they
Right.
work together.
Okay.
And not just that, because while the pediatrician was unable to figure it out, he actually called in his professor,
Right.
who was 90 years old. He came in and he saw the daughter, and then he was like, okay, probably we need to think somewhere outside the box too as well. But thanks to Allah Almighty. But for all of those people who are out there, the symptoms were that the oxygen saturation was going down.
Right.
There was fever. They were saying that it might be any sort of infection too as well. The doctors initially they tell you that it might be UTI or it might be any other sort of infection. But if all of these reports come out negative, please make sure that you keep in mind that you ask about MISC too as well. The treatment wasn't available back then, so we had to give her steroids. And then later on, alhamdulillah, she kind of started to recover too as well. But now, alhamdulillah, because you're saying that 200 more kids, God forbid, have had this, so now the treatment is readily available. So for all of that, who are people who are out there and were struggling, please make sure that you keep that in mind, you bear that in mind too as well. With that, we're actually going to head out towards a short break because such information is really important. When you get ill, who do you go to and
That's
which
true.
doctor do you go to? Whether that doctor is going to be able to, give you that solution which you're looking for.
Right.
How do we do that? I think we really need to kind of talk about a framework over here. But there's this very amazing lady with us who's going to be in the next segment who will let us know whether how this framework is going to help us sort our medical issues out too as well. With that, we're actually heading out
To a short break.
Good morning.
Just like the billboard paintings performed in Pakistan, there is another indigenous form of art performed in Pakistan, and it is the truck art. With its all colorful floral patterns, depiction of human heroes with creative aspects, ratios, calligraphy of poetic verse, and drivers' words of wisdom. This form of art is truly a part of Pakistani transport tradition. Many trucks and buses in Pakistan are highly customized and decorated by their owners. These adjourned vehicles are considered as moving art or jingle art. Because of their unique decor style, these vehicles are quite distinct in layers from other trucks around the world. Each part of the vehicle is decorated differently, with variations depending on the regional style. In Pakistan, a truck driver, owner, usually pays $3,000 to $5,000 for their vehicle's external decoration. The art embellishes such trucks according to the particular tastes of the driver. Nearly every city in Pakistan has a unique decor. The Balochistan and Peshawari trucks are heavily trimmed with wood. Rawalpindi and Islamabad trucks have permanently featured plastic work. Camel-borne ornamentation is commonly seen in trucks decorated by Sindh artists. These trucks are also representative of different local, historical, and cultural regions of Pakistan. Thus, these trucks are also representative of different historical and cultural regions of Pakistan, the enchanting arts and crafts of Pakistan.
Welcome back. And earlier on we were talking about the health related issues, and Shahzad also mentioned about the health literacy. So what exactly is the health literacy for especially people like us, like me, who have not been exposed so much to the healthcare or medical literature when it comes to that. So for example, if I feel ill, like Shahzad was mentioning, where to go and which doctor is best. Yes. And which doctor is best to in terms of the consultation, etc. So we have people amongst us who are working exactly on such kind of field. You wanted to add something, Shahzad?
Exactly, because this is something, ladies and gentlemen, which has happened over here in Pakistan for the very first time. So the due credit really needs to be given where it's due to as well.
Right.
Imagine, so I'm one of those people who really had backbone issues and joint issues and whatnot. So I've always been going to an orthopedic, and then eventually I realized, hey, you know what? So one day I was in UK and somebody said, why don't you go to a rheumatologist? And I was like, who is a rheumatologist? And that actually changed my life. I went to a rheumatologist. She never actually said that, hey, you know what, you need an operation, because every time you go to an orthopedic surgeon, they'll be like, oh, bhai, operation chahiye. Pakistan, I think this is a stigma, this is a problem over here. Whenever you go for a problem, the next person who you're seeing as a doctor is actually a shopkeeper, a vendor. And what they want to do is they want to have money in their bank accounts as well. But that's not really true for each and every doctor. But yes, I've gone through multiple occasions where I've seen how they just treat you like, for example, a car in a workshop, and the mechanic, what are they going to do? They're going to tell you another 5 problems, and then they're going to bill you for that too as well. So now, finally, alhamdulillah, there's somebody who's actually put in a lot of hard work, a lot of research, where now you can finally check whether which doctor to go to, what kind of ratings do they have, and it is really important. Why is something which we will be asking her, why did she took her time? Because I've always been an advocate of research, and this kind of research is going to be helpful for a lot of people and will save a lot of lives as well. So we're very lucky that we've actually been joined by somebody who actually happens to be Director of Local Quality Cell S3H NAST, and she is Professor Dr. Aisha Rao Saiba. Hello, Assalamu Alaikum. Good morning, how are you?
Walaikum salam, I'm fine.
Thank you very much for joining us. It's wonderful to have you. So first things first, why did you put in so much hard work and brought out this research? Why do you think it was important?
And please tell us about your research more.
Okay. So since I'm a statistician, so I believe in the supremacy of data in all walks of life. So health sector is one of the key important factors. So I believe that research should not be only about publishing papers and getting those W categories and high impact factor. It should be solving your social problems. So one of the key problems that every common person here in Pakistan is facing, how to get health services, right? So we should have some criterion, some basic help or toolkit that can enable the people that if they are looking for the right hospital under their budget. For example, if my budget is, let's say, 3,000 rupees, what are the hospitals and the doctor options available for me if I am facing a particular issue? So that's what inspired me, that I really wanted to, without any hyperbolic statement, I really wanted to help the bottom 40% of the Pakistan.
True. Wow.
Right. So when it comes to that, lot of the Pakistanis, they do not have exactly access to the digital gadgets or stuff like that, especially those who are living in the rural areas. There is a penetration of the digital in the urban areas, right? So what about them? How can we include them in this discourse, so they know that, to whom to go to and which doctor is best when it comes to that?
You see, these are like, if you have to build a pyramid, you always have to take the step from the bottom approach. So, you start building and then you go level up. So if we talk, at least generate the debate for online disclosures, that will set the foundation for offline disclosures as well, right? For example, if there is an annual rating of the hospital under certain criterion, so one day it will come that the government will think that why not to disseminate this information as a brochure on an annual basis. So even in the rural areas, we can have printed brochures or a booklet, and we can distribute among the villagers and the union council heads, and they can distribute among the people in the rural areas.
Exactly. So let me ask you, just to be clear about it, because I'm son to somebody who's been a banker for 40 plus years too as well, alhamdulillah. So imagine, with them, every year, there's this rating criteria, and, they were sent back, whether it's an AA category bank or, B category or C category. So with hospitals, do we have such an authority? Does the health ministry look into it too as well, where they kind of rate them, whether how good they were with their services and treatments and whatever healthcare services were they providing to other people?
Or is it visible to the general public?
Or do we have such a mechanism, or we don't?
Let's start with international best practices first.
Sure, sure.
Okay, sure.
If we, for example, take example from the USA, if I focus on the non-profit hospitals, we have Guide Star or we have the Charity Star. So we have organization. Actually, when I did my PhD in accountability, so I started, analyzing the international best practices.
All right.
Okay.
And then I had an idea that there are set parameters. There are guidelines available, and that's from where I got an idea that we can have guidelines for the health sector of Pakistan as well.
True.
Currently, we don't have any holistic, even directory of hospitals
Oh my
working
God.
in. So I want to talk about the annual ratings.
Right.
So, but it's not a negative news. Whenever we have a void, there is an opportunity to fill it.
That's
Exactly, and
Yeah.
you're trying to do so too as well. But the only demerit point I think with the hospitals in US is they're very expensive. You do not have insurance. I've gone through that myself.
Yeah, I know.
All right, but now coming back to how it is going to be your research and this framework is going to be in line with equality and ensuring equality too as well. And how do you think it will help people in days to come?
You see, first of all, if you've talked about inequality, let's start the discussion from the Sustainable Development Goal number 10, which talks about reducing the inequalities.
Yes.
And so if, for example, I talk about nowadays multidimensional poverty, then one of the important segment or dimension of reducing the poverty is to reduce the inequality in the
True.
health sector.
right.
So this, you can say, compliance, it's a basic toolkit. Keep in mind, I was the first one who worked, and I'm not taking any, pride in that.
But you
I'm
need to.
just being very humble about it, that anyone can improve it.
True.
I have proposed 45 criterions. So anyone can come up and propose, keep
And
adding
what are
more.
those criteria? A few of them.
Yes.
There are
Define
many.
it.
For example, if I have
The most
that,
important ones.
okay. If for example, talk about the quality of the website.
Okay.
Since she was very rightly pointed about that English, if the website is purely in English, it's it in itself is a barrier for many of the Pakistanis.
That's
So how about whether the website
I
content
think
are
it's a
translatable or not?
website. I think that's a barrier for a lot of Pakistanis too as
Right.
well. Yeah.
Digital
true,
divide,
True.
yeah.
If we talk about digital divide, that's a separate debate.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
moving on towards the criteria, so what are the most important, the most common criteria amongst the all 45 you jot down?
Okay. For example, if I talk about the financials, whether the audited financial statement of the hospital is available or not,
Okay.
annual report is there or not,
Right.
user satisfaction surveys are there or not.
Alright.
And if I talk about key health sector criterion, what is the thematic service area of that hospital?
Alright.
Right.
What are the list of the departments? What are the doctor's qualification? And what are the lab facilities available?
So how many times were you shocked that out of 100 websites where you never found all of these criteria? She's touching her ears like this too as well. Okay, let's not go over there
Right.
because that's not the kind of news we want to share. But this is the area
Right.
where we need to work, and I think it is our responsibility as a media house that we
Right.
really need to talk about it. We really need to raise the red flags.
Right.
But now coming back to the point where how out of 127 hospitals you evaluated in Pakistan, is that true?
It is true,
All right, so-
not an hyperbolic statement.
All right.
Yeah.
So now what I want to ask you is why don't you highlight the pros and cons of the entire framework which you've been working on, and how do you think it's going to be beneficial for any ordinary man like me, anybody who's watching us on their television screens?
First of all, you have to create demand for informed decisions. Here, even in the health sector, if I have to go and consult a doctor, then my choice should not be calling my auntie or uncle and asking him or her that, tell me a good doctor. I should have, a complete map available in my area. For example, if I go to the website of National Health Services, regulation, like Ministry of National Health Services Regulation and Coordination, I should have a search bar where I can search for public sector hospitals dealing in, let's say if I have a cardiac issue, and they can provide me that these are the options I have.
True.
I can even enter my budget and they can map me further down, okay, these are the options you have.
But at times they're hiding so many secrets too as well,
Right.
so they're like, okay, हमारा अस्पताल ही ना बंद हो जाए.
Right.
So they not willing most of the time to give away
because we
the
don't
information.
have the demand and we don't have the regulator right now.
Right.
It's just a researcher dream right now.
Yes.
So the dream will come true when only when the regulatory body will be interested in
Inshallah.
issuing such type of regular ratings. We should
Exactly.
have annual ratings, 5-star ratings for the doctors, for the hospitals. And we can even, for example, even if we don't want to make it public that which criterion were missing on a particular hospital website, we can provide that dedicated in-depth report to the hospital management. Because we are not here to penalize anyone.
Exactly.
So we need to understand that if a researcher is proposing, that's a solution, so let's join hands.
So jab dil mein chor hota hai na, so you know what happens is they already think before giving the information away that okay, you know, we might be penalized for this too as well. There are a lot of practices, there are good practices I think, and then there are bad practices as well. But I think what we really need to kind of follow is the best practices. That's the way forward. That's what she mentioned too as well. But thank you very much, Dr. Saiba, for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation with such a Pakistani who really want to improve the very framework or the kind of way we actually utilize information for ourselves too as well. But then at the same time, you know, one last thing, and that is that, you know, while you were doing this research and now that you're going out on television, don't you think that a lot of hospitals administration might chase you down too as well? And you know, there are these risks involved when we talk about research most of the time.
So there is an opportunity cost of taking any path. For example, if I'm a professor, right? I go in the classes and I deliver a lecture. So if I just, you know, hide the lecture content that it's going to create a debate, people are going to ask me questions, then the information sharing and the whole, you know, essence of knowledge, economy and everything that will be wiped out.
True.
So if the hospital wants to contact me and for example, if they want to join hands with me, I can enable them, I can help them. These are the criteria, you can meet these.
Exactly.
And by the way, whenever I propose even to the government bodies that they want to regulate, they should never penalize the hospital. They should give a particular response time.
Exactly.
For example, after 3 years, you should have this type of information.
True.
After 5 years, you should have
Yes.
this type of information.
I think that's wonderful. Thank you very much, Dr. Saiba, once again for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation with you. But now it's about time, ladies and gentlemen, that we talk about that, okay, you know, hospitals, you know, diseases, they're going to be amongst us. You know, they're a part of us too as well. But if you exercise, if you hike, you know, I think it's going to get better too as well. And while we speak of hiking, you know, one of our interns, you know, happened to be Mr. Atiq, didn't show up today because he went for hiking yesterday and he said that, hey, you know what, my legs are so tired, I cannot even come back to work. And I think it is all because of the fact that her hiking management, Wali Khatoon, I think it's Fiza Shahzad, whose birthday is today, wasn't really an expert on that, because then later on Atiq actually texted that I have had a sprain in my leg. So why do you even have a head, you know, when you know, she cannot look after your leg too as well. But Fiza, happy birthday to you, and make sure that next time if you take our team member with you, you really need to make sure that, you know, they do not sprain their leg or foot, or probably, you know, they do not have any other problem, because only then you certainly will be the one who deserves to be at the top of that group too as well. But Faiza, thank you very much, you know, for doing what you're doing. A very happy Hash Day. Haja is going to sing you a birthday song too as well.
And Shehzad is a very strict disciplinarian when it comes to that. So he was, you know, saying to Atiq that, you know, you need to be more careful when you're working. So happy birthday to you, Faiza. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you with good health, because health is very important. This is what you were reiterating, you know, this entire segment when it comes to that, and also, you know, give you the prosperity, you know, which is I think very significant when it comes to, you know, 21st century.
And never take our Atiq with you to a hike or for a hike too as well, because next day he does not show up at work and he says that I've sprained my foot. All right, but you know, for everybody who's out there, make sure that you have a healthier lifestyle so that you stay healthy, you stay away from hospitals. You really do not have to go there regularly too as well. But for everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that you remember us all in your prayers. We need them. You know, we are under the weather. I am under the weather too. And for all those people who are, please make sure that you take all the precaution measures. Don't shake hands till the next time. Look after yourselves. 1, 2, 3. Good morning. Thank you. Thank you.